Welcome to a video that would have been just as exciting in friggin' 1985. There's a lot of old stuff in here, isn't there? Today we're looking at the synth wall. So I built the wall from scratch and I'm going to take you through all the elements from bottom to top. It's taken me absolutely ages to get to this point, and it's not because it was difficult to construct, it was just that planning it in a way that the whole thing was modular just took ages. It's partly because when I'm here, all I want to do when I see a guitar is dances in the street, holding a... But the reason I was sort of so drawn to the Eurorack modular format is that I could just swap things out when I needed to that suited my workflow. So even though I don't plan to change the wall up anytime soon, and I'm really happy with it, I like, you know, the flexibility of being able to. That's the thing. I'll stop rambling and we'll just get into the tour. So it doesn't just house synths, and this obviously isn't everything I own, but this is, over time, what I've realised I just tend to use quite a lot. I had this off-cutter worktop from my kitchen at home, and it just gave me a bit more real estate, but it also meant I was able to put some rack-mounted stuff, and it just allowed me to put some things here that I not only need to be able to use and access, but I also need to be able to remove these and take these out if I'm playing live. So like the pedal board and the modular setup here. Everything's not wired in yet, but it'll all be onto a patch bay, and I can access everything from the front. Chris at Beckview actually gave me that, which was kind of him. Chris had actually come round and we were looking at a way that I could maybe get a desk in here, and it just became clear that that wasn't what I needed. I just needed to consolidate everything that I used into something that I could quickly patch in whatever formation I needed to create some more music, basically. I'm still using this tip-top case. I made this pedal board, it's out of some sapele and some maple and a little bit of oak on top as well, just because I had some offcuts. In fact, quite a lot of this is oak. Some of the other things that are just utility based, like the universal audio that my Telefunken runs through. But then I do have a very cool synth rack mounted here. It's one of the Emu Proteus ones. So it's got some really cool sounds on it, and I use it for a lot of pads and stuff, but it actually has some nice bass sounds on it too. Then on this side, these aren't in at the minute, but there's a load of sequencers, a load of Eurorack sequencers, and actually a complex oscillator as well. I've got these out at the minute because I'm still cabling things up, so I need to get to things. And then some little brushes at the bottom, and these little brushes are really good for hiding wires and things like that. Plus, like, listen to how good this sounds. Bit of ASMR there for you. It's nice, isn't it? So, I think we have to talk about the Logan. Now, the Logan is an analog string machine. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's a little bit toppy, and it's obviously got no filter. And it actually needs a bit of maintenance, so it has a bit of noise in it as well. So I bought a lot of this stuff from a friend of mine called Chris, who owns a little gold mine that I can't tell you about, because otherwise you'll go and buy all the good stuff before me. But it's his first time on the channel, but I thought he could tell you about some of the gear that he's had over the years and some of the things he's sold me.
I've actually had this shop just over 18 years, but I've been doing this just over 40 years.
You don't
over
look
that
old
time. Don't say that. Somebody said the other day that I never look any different, you know, I never look any older. I said, well, I looked 75 when I was 20. They were an American manufacturer, and then Horner started doing a few sort of rip-offs of the Logan, made in Italy mostly. Fender Rhodes, used to have to virtually give them away at one time. Fender Rhodes, and I mean the old synths when the DX7 came out in the 80s, like everybody wanted a DX7. You know, people used to use SH101s as doorstops and things like that. Yeah.
This modular row here is, there's a couple of samplers, but mainly it's so that I can bring in external things. Even this modular or anything, I can bring in some external stuff and run it through this chain. The MS-20 filter is probably my favourite filter. So I've got actually one of the 3-tom modular Steve MS-22 in there, and I absolutely love it. And it means that I can run the Logan directly into here, filter it, bring it through some effects, run it through the Golden Master, which is like a finalizer and can do some cool stuff in itself, and then obviously bring it down into the patch bay and into the interface. 3-tom modular actually sent me one of their new saturation limiter modules, which is really, really good. He did send me that for nothing though, just to let you know. I was basically just telling him how good his MS-22 module was, and he was saying that he liked my music and he wanted to send me one to try out, so that was very kind of him, and it's really, really cool. So I've got that in there too, so I can sort of filter it and saturate it, run it through the Monsoon, and then bring it back in. I've got a couple of old Echo modules. There's the HH Electronics Digital Echo unit that isn't patched in at the minute. Now, if you read online, people just slag this off all the time, and I don't know why, because it's old and it's characterful, and I quite like it. But this is the daddy, and you might have seen this. I've used this in other videos before. But the Echo mixer, it's an old 1970s mixer. Obviously, what's awesome about it is I can take a really hot signal, like the Eurorack, and put it straight into this without fear of it exploding, and it saturates it in a really, really musical way. Here we have a HR16 that I've had modded, and it's got like a load of Lindrum sounds, a load of Oberheim sounds, and 808s, 909s, and I've got that just midied up as well. It's a bit of a shame because these are velocity sensitive, so it would be nice to be able to access these a bit better, but it doesn't really matter, especially for the type of music I'm making. I don't really need a lot of velocity. The top shelf, reserved for, you know, porno mags and drinks. But in my case, there's just a load of memorabilia and rubbish. This is the old phone from my nan's house where I grew up. These are actually the most important things on here. My granddad was Dutch, he died a few years ago, and these were some little clogs. He didn't wear these. The Dutch are renowned for being quite tall, so, he wasn't a size minus 300 feet. Or anything like that, but I used to have them in the house, so I brought them home. So I've got the two old TVs. Now this one is actually hooked up as well, but you can see it's not, I turn it on and it does come on, but it's not doing what the bottom TV is doing, and it's because I don't have a remote for it. So if anyone knows how to get this onto AV without a remote, that would be ace. Or if someone can give me another tiny TV from up there, that would be good as well. But this one you can see is hooked up to the modular. The modular is a nice hot signal, so it just, on this video scope, it needs quite a hot signal. I can tempo sync that to whatever I'm making, which is really cool. So this side here is reserved for cassette, so it isn't patched in at the minute, but I've got a Tascam 414 that comes from the patch bay. So I can take a mix into it and record it onto cassette, and then what I can do is I can duplicate them on this Sony cassette duplicator and distribute them. I haven't done it yet, but I might friggin' do it in the future, who knows. Just to talk about the MS-20, which is a semi-modular, and obviously I've said it before, but I try not to get a semi here, there and everywhere. But this particular semi is an absolute staple for me. And I know it so well as well, so I can dial in what I need to dial in a very short space of time. I recently went to Beckview to record a new track, and I'd sort of got up at 7 and wrote a track, and I was there at 9. And I'd sort of produced everything except the vocal and the bass by the time I got there. And he had one of these, and we were able to dial a bass in within the first sort of 15-20 minutes that I was really happy with. So having things in there that I know really well is quite important to my workflow.